Welcome to Virtual Voices. I'm Eli, one of your AI virtual hosts. Join us as we review previous videos from YouTuber Emmaus Road Productions.
And I am Miriam. And together, we bring you a deep dive podcast powered by Google's NotebookLM. This podcast is a generic AI-generated summary of Emmaus Road Productions videos, and we don't cover everything. Please consider watching his full video linked in the description below.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Cut.
Today, we're going to be exploring, the reasons why we believe the things we do.
Ah, very interesting.
And we're going to be doing this through the lens of a video series by Emmaus Road Productions.
Okay.
It's a review that they did of Pastor Chip Ingram's book, Why I Believe.
Okay.
This video series is actually 7 parts, but we're going to focus on part 1 today.
Sounds good.
And what's really unique about this deep dive is that the reviewer actually kind of adds in his own thoughts and experiences along the way as he's reading through the book with his church group.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like getting 2 perspectives for the price of 1.
Yeah, exactly.
And in part 1 of this video series, things get surprisingly personal. The reviewer doesn't shy away from sharing some of his raw thoughts on faith and how we actually, live it out.
Yeah, and the video actually starts with a question that I think a lot of us have probably pondered at one point or another.
Oh, really?
The stories in the Bible, just fairy tales that are meant to keep society in line. It's a question that Pastor Ingram himself actually wrestled with, especially growing up in a non-Christian home.
Right.
But what I found really fascinating was the reviewer's take on this.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He argued that it's not just about believing the stories.
Okay.
It's about the examples that we set as Christians.
Oh, I see.
He even shares this pretty hilarious story from his time in the Navy about a prayer that went very wrong.
Oh, a prayer gone wrong?
Yeah. He was tasked with leading a prayer during boot camp, and everyone was like goofing off, and he got so frustrated he ended up yelling,
"Oh, no.
Shut up and pray." Not exactly a shining example of faith in action.
Wow, yeah. That's definitely an example of how our actions can sometimes betray our beliefs, especially when we're under pressure.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it kind of raises the question, how can we make sure our actions align with our beliefs?
Right.
Especially when we're in challenging environments.
Yeah.
How do we bridge that gap?
That's a tough one. Self-awareness is a good starting point. Honestly, evaluating our behavior and asking ourselves, am I reflecting the values I claim to hold?
And it's an ongoing process. It's not about achieving perfection.
Right.
But it's about, striving for consistency between our inner world and our outer actions.
Yeah, and the reviewer then goes on to discuss Pastor Ingram's conversion experience,
Okay.
which happened through the Fellowship of Christian Athletes in college.
Oh, wow.
And the reviewer highlights Ingram's emphasis on discipleship, not just leading people to say the sinner's prayer, but walking alongside them in their faith journey.
It sounds like Pastor Ingram's college experience really showed how important mentorship is in spiritual development.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just have a single conversion experience.
Right.
True spiritual growth requires ongoing learning and guidance.
For sure. It makes you wonder, what role have mentors played in your faith journey?
That's a great question.
Have you had someone who's walked alongside you, challenged you to grow, and helped you navigate those complexities of faith?
And on the flip side, are you being that person for somebody else?
Ooh, that's a good point. Are you sharing what you've learned, offering guidance and supporting others as they explore their own faith? Discipleship is a two-way street. It's both giving and receiving.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. It's not just about receiving, but it's about giving back and helping others grow as well.
Absolutely.
One of the most compelling parts of the video, I thought, was when Pastor Ingram's college professor challenged his faith.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not aggressively,
Okay.
but with, genuine concern.
Interesting.
Questioning the validity of Christianity.
I think that moment highlights a pretty universal experience. At some point, our beliefs will be questioned, whether it's by a professor, a friend, a family member,
Right.
or even our own internal doubts.
Yeah.
And the way we respond to those challenges really reveals a lot about the depth of our faith.
So let's talk about some practical tips for responding to those challenges gracefully and respectfully,
Okay.
even when we feel defensive. I know for me, I can get pretty flustered. When somebody criticizes my beliefs, what are some ways that we can approach those conversations with more humility and less defensiveness?
Well, first, I think it's important to recognize that defensiveness often comes from a place of insecurity. The more secure we are in our own beliefs,
Right.
the less threatened we feel by differing viewpoints.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It allows us to be open to hearing other perspectives without feeling like our whole belief system is under attack.
It's about having the confidence to engage in dialogue without feeling the need to win the argument.
Exactly. It's not about winning or losing, but it's about understanding.
Right.
Actively listen to what the other person is saying.
Uh-huh.
Try to see things from their perspective.
Okay.
And ask clarifying questions.
Yeah.
You might even learn something new in the process.
It's about approaching those conversations with curiosity rather than judgment.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's okay to just say, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm willing to explore it further. Admitting we don't have all the answers can be a powerful way to build trust and create a space for genuine dialogue.
Humility goes a long way.
Yeah.
It disarms the other person, and it shows that you're approaching the conversation with an open mind.
Right.
Remember, it's okay to disagree, but do it respectfully.
Yes.
And with a willingness to understand where the other person is coming from.
So the key takeaway here is that responding to challenges is as much about how we listen as it is about what we say.
Absolutely.
It's about cultivating that attitude of humility, curiosity, and respect, even when we encounter viewpoints that are different from our own.
I love that. Yeah, it's so easy to just become defensive, right? When somebody challenges our beliefs.
Yeah, it's almost like we take it as a personal attack.
Right. But what if we shifted our perspective and saw those challenges as opportunities for growth?
Okay.
Instead of shutting down, we could lean into the discomfort.
Okay.
Ask ourselves, why does this challenge bother me so much? What can I learn from it?
That's a great point. It's about using those moments of friction to deepen our understanding, not just of our own beliefs, but of other people's perspectives.
Right.
Now, moving on in the video, Emmaus Road Productions dives into some specific challenges to belief that Pastor Ingram addresses in his book, Why I Believe.
Okay.
One that really resonated with me was the idea that the Bible's full of contradictions and historical inaccuracies.
Yeah, that's a common critique, especially from those who view the Bible as a collection of myths and legends.
Right, rather than as a divinely inspired text.
Exactly.
Which is a perspective we need to acknowledge, even if we don't personally agree with it.
Right.
After all, how can we have these meaningful conversations about faith
Right.
if we're not willing to engage with opposing viewpoints?
I think understanding the other side's argument is crucial for having a productive dialogue.
Okay.
It forces us to examine our own beliefs more critically
Right.
and search for evidence that either supports or challenges our understanding.
So instead of just dismissing the criticism outright, we should be willing to actually investigate it.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is that when you really delve into these supposed contradictions,
Okay.
you often find that they stem from misunderstandings of the text,
Okay.
the cultural context, or the literary genre.
It's like assuming that every story in the Bible is meant to be taken literally,
Right.
when in reality there are parables, poems, prophecies, historical accounts,
Yeah.
all different forms of communication with their own unique rules of interpretation.
Exactly. And the way those forms were understood in ancient times might differ from how we interpret them today.
Right.
So understanding the historical and cultural context is really crucial for accurate interpretation.
And Emmaus Road Productions made this really interesting point about this. They said, and I'm paraphrasing here,
Okay.
that studying the Bible shouldn't just be about memorizing verses. It should be about engaging with it as a living document,
Okay.
wrestling with its complexities, grappling with its challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and allowing it to transform us.
That's powerful. It's a lifelong pursuit.
It is.
There's always something new to learn and discover.
Right.
And the deeper you dig, the richer your understanding becomes.
He also pointed out that there are so many resources available to help us along the way, like commentaries, study guides, even videos like the one we're discussing.
Yeah.
They can offer these valuable insights and perspectives that we might not have considered on our own.
It's like having a guide on a challenging hike.
Yeah.
They can point out hidden trails, help you navigate the treacherous terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you don't get lost along the way.
And speaking of guides, the reviewer's experience of going through this book with his church group
Yeah.
really highlights the importance of community and faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're not meant to do this alone,
Right.
Sharing insights, debating interpretations, supporting each other through doubts and questions.
Yeah.
That's where the real growth happens.
It creates this safe space
Yeah.
where we can be honest about our struggles,
Yeah.
ask those difficult questions, and learn from each other's experiences.
It's like having a spiritual support system,
Yes.
a group of people who are cheering us on, challenging us to grow,
Right.
and helping us stay on track when we stumble.
And remember, discipleship is a two-way street.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not just about receiving guidance from those who are further along,
Right.
but also about being willing to mentor others who are just starting out.
Absolutely. We each have something to offer, regardless of where we are on our faith journey.
It's about creating a cycle of learning and growth, passing on the knowledge and wisdom we've gained to those who come after us.
Speaking of challenges, the reviewer also touched on this age-old question of suffering.
Ah, yes.
If God is good,
Yeah.
why is there so much pain and suffering in the world? It's a question that has perplexed theologians and philosophers for centuries.
It really has.
And it's a question that many people wrestle with,
Yeah.
especially when they're faced with personal tragedy or loss. Absolutely. I know I have. There have been times in my life where I've questioned everything I believe in
Yeah.
because of the pain and suffering I've witnessed.
What I found interesting was that the reviewer didn't shy away from the tough questions.
Yeah.
He didn't offer platitudes or simplistic answers.
Mm-hmm.
He acknowledged the complexity of the issue.
Right.
And he really encouraged viewers to wrestle with those questions honestly and openly.
Yeah, it's so tempting to just try to sweep those difficult questions under the rug.
Yeah, or pretend they don't exist.
But that doesn't make the pain go away.
Yeah.
It just keeps us stuck in this cycle of denial and avoidance.
So how do we approach the problem of suffering in a way that's both honest and faith-affirming?
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah.
Different people will find different ways to process their pain
Okay.
and make sense of their experiences.
Yeah.
Some might find comfort in the belief that God has a plan even if we can't see it.
Hmm.
Others might find solace in the idea that suffering can lead to spiritual growth and transformation.
And some might reject the idea of a benevolent God altogether.
Right. And that's okay. There's no right or wrong way to process suffering. What's important is that we allow ourselves to feel the pain,
Yeah.
ask the hard questions, and seek support from those around us.
So it's less about finding the right answer
Mm-hmm.
and more about navigating the journey with authenticity and compassion.
Exactly. And allowing ourselves to be changed by the experience.
Yeah.
Whether that change leads us closer to faith,
Okay.
further away from it, or somewhere in between.
It's all part of the human experience.
The joys, the sorrows, the doubts, the beliefs, it all shapes who we are.
Right.
And that brings us back to this idea of owning our beliefs.
Okay.
Because ultimately, it's not about having all the answers
Sure.
or adhering to a specific dogma.
Mm-hmm.
It's about living a life that reflects our values
Yeah.
and seeking truth wherever it may lead us.
And sometimes that journey will lead us through valleys of darkness and despair.
Yes, it will.
But it's in those dark places that we often discover our greatest strength and resilience.
It's like that saying, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Suffering can break us open, crack our hearts wide open, and allow something new to emerge. A deeper compassion, a greater empathy, a more profound understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's not about glorifying suffering or pretending it's not painful.
No, it's not.
It's about acknowledging that it's part of the human experience.
Yeah.
And finding ways to navigate it with grace, courage, and hope.
For sure. Now, in part one of this deep dive, we talked about the importance of actions aligning with beliefs.
Right. Walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And it strikes me that this applies not only to how we treat others,
Mm.
but also to how we engage with challenging questions about faith.
Oh.
If we claim to value open-mindedness and intellectual honesty,
Right.
then we need to be willing to truly examine different perspectives,
Yeah.
even those that make us uncomfortable.
So instead of shying away from those tough conversations, we should lean into them.
Yes. Engage with curiosity, listen with empathy, and be willing to learn and grow.
Because at the end of the day, that's what faith is all about. It's a constant evolution, a journey of discovery.
And the more we embrace that journey, the more meaningful it becomes. Now, as we wrap up part two of this deep dive, I'm curious, what has stood out to you so far? What thoughts or questions has this conversation sparked for you? Take a moment to reflect on that.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been unpacking Emmaus Road Productions' video review of Pastor Chip Ingram's book, Why I Believe.
Right, focusing specifically on part one of their 7-part series.
Yes, and in the previous parts, we talked about a lot of stuff from the reviewer's own personal struggles to the challenge of reconciling faith with suffering in the world.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Exploring those different layers of belief and kind of confronting some of those difficult questions that many of us grapple with.
Absolutely. And in this final part, I want to zoom in on something that Emmaus Road Productions emphasized throughout their video.
Okay.
And that is the relevance of faith in our everyday lives. It's not just about abstract theological concepts.
Right.
It's about how our beliefs shape our actions, our relationships, and our interactions with the world around us.
It's about bridging that gap between belief and action.
Yeah.
Which is something we talked about earlier. It's one thing to say we believe something, it's another thing entirely to live it out consistently, especially in a world that often pulls us in different directions.
Right. And Emmaus Road Productions pointed out that Pastor Ingram addresses this head on in his book. He talks about the importance of aligning our inner world with our outer actions,
Okay.
emphasizing that true faith should lead to a change in character.
So it's not just about doing the right things externally,
Right.
but about cultivating the right kind of heart, the right attitude, the right disposition.
Yeah.
It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally embodies the values that we claim to hold.
It reminds me of that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. It starts with us with a transformation of our own hearts and minds before it can ripple outward.
Absolutely. And Emmaus Road Productions highlighted how Pastor Ingram specifically calls out compassion, integrity, forgiveness, and humility as fruits of genuine faith. These are the qualities that should naturally flow from a life rooted in belief, shaping how we interact with others, especially those who hold different beliefs or values than our own.
So instead of isolating ourselves in these echo chambers or engaging in hostile debates, we're called to build bridges, find common ground, and work together for the common good. Easier said than done right.
Oh, absolutely. It's much easier to retreat into our own tribes and demonize those who see the world differently.
Yeah.
But if our faith is to have any real impact, it needs to move us beyond those simplistic divisions
Right.
and towards a more nuanced understanding of our shared humanity.
It's about recognizing that everyone, regardless of their beliefs or background, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Exactly. It's about seeing that divine spark in every human being,
Yes.
even those we might disagree with.
And it's about engaging in those difficult conversations with humility,
Yes.
curiosity, and a genuine desire to understand, listening more than we speak, seeking to emphasize rather than condemn, building relationships instead of walls.
I love that. What I find so compelling about this approach is that it flips the script on how we typically view those who hold different beliefs. Instead of seeing them as enemies to be defeated, we can see them as fellow travelers on this journey of life, each with our own unique perspectives and experiences.
And who knows, we might even learn something from each other along the way.
Exactly. By engaging in dialogue with humility and respect, we can challenge our own assumptions, broaden our perspectives, and maybe even find common ground that we didn't know existed.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this challenge. How can you embody these principles of compassion, integrity, forgiveness, and humility in your own life? How can you use your beliefs as a force for good in the world, bridging divides and promoting understanding?
Remember, faith is not a spectator sport. It's an active, dynamic, and ever-evolving journey. And the more we engage with it thoughtfully and authentically, the more meaningful and impactful our lives become. We encourage you to check out Emmaus Road Productions' full video series on their YouTube channel. They delve into much more detail on Pastor Chip Ingram's book, Why I Believe, and they offer insights and challenges that I think will resonate with anyone seeking to deepen their understanding of faith and its relevance in today's world.
And until next time, keep diving deep.
Thank you for watching, and feel free to subscribe or take a look at some of these other videos. And always remember Matthew 6:33, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Until next time, have a great day.